Are you sick and tired of feeling empty and unfulfilled regardless of how much you achieve? What if there were goals that you could set for yourself that could give you a long lasting level of peace, fulfillment, and joy? Now, this is not a typical conversation on goal setting because this isn't the type of goal that is going to be externally looked at. The goals that we'll be exploring in today's video are much deeper than that. And these are the goals that will give you an opportunity to experience a deep level of fulfillment and joy, presence, peace, and power as you go throughout life, regardless of the circumstances around you. Welcome. On today's conversation, we're going to take a look at the goals that are going to support you in building a life that is going to be sustainable in the long term. And also the opportunity to create a legacy, to start the process of leaving behind the opportunity for your future children and your families to come to live from this place of permanent living. This is the art of living, an opportunity where we get to live life from a place of fullness, not completed by something that is coming from the external, but we get to experience the external because we're complete within. And as we start to look at these different levels of goal setting, this is going to be very different than what the world normally tells us. Coming from business, for a long time, all of my goals were based on external outcomes. More growth, more money, bigger team, more places to go to. And all of those things, while they were enjoyable, eventually over time, they got old. And most importantly, they didn't leave me a full level of fulfillment. And this is where, as we experience life and as we go through life, maybe you've experienced it in the past. Maybe you really wanted to accomplish something for yourself, purchase something, whatever it may have been, and you did it and you got it, only to find yourself shortly afterwards feeling totally discontented by it. It didn't make any sense. I totally understand. I've been there before. It's because the goals that are focused on the external are not tied into what really keeps them permanent in the internal. In today's conversation, we're going to take a look at 3 different ways in which we can build we can create these goals that are going to give us a long level of sustainable living. Number 1, we're going to take a look at specifically, what does God say about our vision for ourselves? What does He say in regards to who we are to be? What is the purpose for all of us being here on earth? We're here for a reason. What is that? We can easily turn to God and see the way in which He describes the reasons why we're here. And as a hint, it is not to build more houses, have more things. No, we get those things. And we see that very clearly through the story of Solomon, who is a great example of this. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Number 2, we're going to take a look at how do we align ourselves with these principles that withstand the test of time, these principles that when you take a look at whatever particular leader you're speaking to, they're talking about these principles. And number 3, how do we review and adjust monthly? Because just like any sort of progress, if we are not tracking what we're moving towards, we may be very easily moving away from them, totally unknown that we are. So we must make sure that we are intentional about the direction we're moving. And in order to be intentional about that, we must track. So if this is your first time listening to this channel, welcome. My name is Sebastian. My intent is to be able to support business owners, entrepreneurs, self-starters, people that are really actively building something that is meaningful in their lives, all through God's principles. Because what I've learned for myself in my 10 years of entrepreneurship and business is that without those principles, the temporary can very easily fade. And I remember very vividly, there was a time in my life when I was living at what externally looked the best. I was successful in terms of money, building a team, supporting the company and growing tremendously. However, I was totally discontented. I was disconnected from my girlfriend. I was totally unhappy with the circumstances of the people around me. And mind you, beautiful home, great place, a lot of fun, but all of that, something wasn't really fitting in. Now, at that time, I didn't recognize that I was tying in my success based on my external world. The successes that I was experiencing were the ones that I thought were giving me the level of success. Not only to recognize years later that it was the person that I was becoming, or in fact, the lack of becoming, that was actually leading me to that sense of discontent, that level of unfulfillment. Through life, I've been able to now move through multiple different contexts, and in the context of business, to really understand that teams get the most level of fulfillment and engagement in their work when the goals that are set in place are goals that are connected to these, what we're about to talk about today. These goals that have a deeper level of roots that support us in actually moving towards things that are permanent, an opportunity to leave behind what cannot be distorted. Because it doesn't matter how old of an iPhone you have, or what kind of technology you use, or what kind of clothes you wear. Over time, all of that will fade. What will not fade is who you leave behind, the character you develop into, the integrity of who you are as an individual. So the goals that we're going to be looking at are not necessarily goals of things. Like I've already mentioned, no, we're developing goals that are much more deeply rooted. And we can easily take a look at the goals that God sets for us. God says very clearly, where there's no vision, the people perish. So if you don't have a vision for yourself as to what you're moving towards, you're going to go somewhere. The question is where? Psychology now tells us very clearly that if a mind is left undirected, it will normally tend towards chaos. This is why you start to recognize that on days, weeks, months, years where you don't have a clear North Star that you're moving towards, you start to feel a level of disharmony within your body, which reacts and brings about a whole new level of actions from you. This is why maybe when you have a clear idea, you're going to go on vacation in a month, man, that month flies by. You're excited, you're engaged, you're totally plugged in because there is a clear vision as to where you're going towards. Now, what if instead of there having to be a vacation where we experience this level of engagement and fulfillment, we can now bring that level of vision into all of our life, always? With this level of vision and these levels of identity characters, these level of identity expanders, we're going to take a look at right now, what are the things that you could develop into that you can actually move to a deeper level of understanding for yourself, and again, that level of fulfillment. And scripture calls them very clearly. It's the fruits of the spirit. Now, why I love this so much is because a fruit is really interesting. You know, a fruit is something that carries the seed within itself. It's like there's a philosopher that says that you don't know how many, we know how many seeds we can find in an apple, but we don't know how many apples come from that seed. Just think about that. Fruits are so interesting because within them lives something that is going to be reproduced, recreated. In a way, we're fruits. Why do I say that? Scripture tells us, be fruitful and multiply. Now, what does that mean? Obviously, I'm not going to sprout an orange or an apple. No, but there are things within me, creative endeavors, ideas that God has put within me, these seeds that are up to me to now water, nourish, take care of. Just like there are seeds within you, there are ideas, there's creative expressions, things that only you can bring forth. And if we're not careful about developing these seeds, those gifts, those talents, the potential miracles that you could bring about are going to die. They say the place with the most wealth and most potential is a cemetery because there are dreams, songs left unsung there. There are things that people just put to the side until tomorrow, forgetting that tomorrow never comes. It says, why wait until tomorrow? We can do today. Be anxious. Don't be anxious for tomorrow. Today has enough of its own. So these fruits of the Spirit are an opportunity for us to take a look at what are the fruits that we right now can embody? What are the seeds that we are watering? And the fruits of the Spirit are real simple. And again, this is where we're talking about creating a set of goals that are different because we're developing more of an identity, who we're becoming into. If we become these fruits, you're going to start to recognize for yourself, your actions will differ. And then as your actions shift, the results that you get will also be different. As you start to plant new seeds, you're going to start to get new results. If right now you're not fully fulfilled with your life, maybe it's because there's some seeds in your life that you've been watering that aren't aligned to what you really want to accomplish in your life. And that's okay, not a problem. Now you have an ability and a responsibility to shift that up, to take some new actions on. So fruits of the Spirit, real simple. We take a look at them. Love, joy, peace. We can take a look at these as being the inward. These are the ones that we can really develop internally. This is like the attitudes that we have toward God. If we have been created by the Creator to create, which is exactly what we are, then this love, joy, and peace are attitudes we can bring towards Him internally so we can really continue to experience a deep level of fulfillment for ourselves. Now, love, joy, and peace. Those are things that as you go through life, they can be very easily taking off course. It's very easy for somebody to unlove someone that we do love because of things that they do. There are times where we feel happy, but because of something that we didn't expect, that happiness goes away. And there's a time where we are lacking a sense of peace internally because aren't going our way. Maybe you're experiencing something you weren't expecting because of that. The peace has gone away. This is where it's important for us to take a look at. If we are going to seek to experience love, joy, and peace, which is this internal, inward development internally, we're going to need to experience the opposite of that in order for that muscle to grow. The only way a muscle grows is through breaking. You got to literally tear a muscle if that muscle is going to get stronger. So if you're looking to love, to embody and really develop this fruit of love, you're going to come across things that are going to challenge you, particularly with people, even within yourself. Maybe right now there are some things that you're holding on to that are an opportunity for you to let go so you can experience a deeper level of love. We have peace. Life is going to bring you chaos. Life is going to bring you trials and tribulations so that you can experience what peace looks like even within those experiences. And joy. If you're looking to be joy, you're going to come across situations that are going to, again, try to take you off course, are going to take your joy away, are going to try to take away that level of fulfillment and peace. And that's when you start to recognize, no, I can show up in a joyous state because I can be joyous regardless of the circumstances. If you really start to live from these fruits, from these seeds, you recognize life no longer has power over you. You have power over life. And we've been given dominion over life. Let's take a look at the other six, the outward fruits. These are how we treat others. These seeds are the ways in which we can show up to others. And these goals, again, we're looking at goals from different perspective. And these goals of how we are going to drastically shift the way in which you now create your life and help others do the same. Patience, kindness, and goodness. So just imagine what life could be like for you if you were to develop a deeper level of patience with the people around you. What about kindness? You ever find yourself annoyed at the people around you for whatever reason? Or maybe not even somebody that you know. Maybe you're walking down the street and you see somebody homeless who doesn't have the ability to feed themselves. But you know you could very easily purchase that person some food real quick. Doesn't take too much time out of your day, and maybe a couple bucks, $10 maybe. But is that kindness even within you? Do you even care? And goodness. Right connected with kindness. What does it look like to be a good person in the world? As we start to look at these seeds of living from a deeper level of compassion towards others, again, this is how we treat others. In this level of kindness, of goodness, of patience, we can understand that now people are going to be people. And again, this is where we can put ourselves in a completely new place of presence and power. Because it doesn't matter what people do. We are the ones that have the seeds internally. And when the person or their circumstance comes around and knocks it off course, it's actually watering that seed. It's giving you an opportunity to put some water on that, maybe some sunlight. Literally, in order for the seed to sprout, it needs to break. So if the person comes across you, throws you off of your patience, great, your seed is breaking. When your seed is breaking, it's actually in the process of growing. That is a good thing. It doesn't matter what you're experiencing. The challenges become almost like they're propelling you forward. The things that you don't want to experience become the opportunity for growth. And the final three, the upward seeds. These are your self-disciplined seeds. These are the seeds that are going to support you and, again, continuing to develop a new level of self-esteem and respect towards yourself as you go throughout life. Faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Now imagine if you were able to walk around with a whole new level of faithfulness. And by faith, Scripture tells us very clearly, faith is clearly the substance of things unseen. So to be able to live in the now as if the thing that you cannot see is right here, right now. It's the substance. It's like substance, two words. Sub underneath, stance, you're standing on. It's like you're standing. It's like what you're standing on is the reality of the thing that you would like to experience. That's faith. Imagine if you were able to walk around whoop, through your day to day from this whole new level of faith, a new level of understanding for yourself. That was silly on my part. Lesson learned. What if you could walk around through your day to day from a whole new level of faithfulness, unattached from the outcome, fully committed to continuing to trust in the substance that you cannot see as if you were standing on it right now? Gentleness. Now, with gentleness, this is really key because we are typically our own worst critics. If you can relate, I'm sure you could. If we can be in a place of gentleness, we're no longer holding on to the shame, the guilt. We're no longer putting all of this weight on top of our backs. No, we know that we're human and we will make mistakes. That's part of humanity. You'll also understand from that context that as you are making mistakes, so will others. And then there's a whole new level of grace in the picture. It creates a whole new level of detachment. You're no longer tied into people being perfect, nor you being perfect, because there's a sense of gentleness. You understand that, again, things are not going to play out like you want them to, nor will you be perfect. And if you are one of those perfectionists, this seed of gentleness can give you a whole new opportunity to, again, experience the level of long-term fulfillment we're speaking of. And finally, self-control. You have a free will. And we'll talk much more on this as we talk about soul care, because you have a free will. You can easily choose to stop watching this right now, just like you've chosen to be watching it. You can choose that once you get done here, you can go and do something that's going to nurture you or something that's going to destroy you. This level of self-control is really God's biggest gift to us. It's also the biggest curse, because just like any blessing, if not looked at properly, can become a curse. If you are not practicing self-control, rest assured something else is. And that something else could be a phone, technology. It could be entertainment. It could be the people around you. So you must be really intentional about practicing being in this place of self-control, so you can develop a deeper level of self-esteem for yourself, a deeper level of in building yourself up. The integrity of who you are as a human is going to make the biggest difference as you go throughout your life. So with those 9 fruits, again, we're going to look at them again. Love, joy, and peace. These are the inward fruits. Patience, kindness, goodness. This is how we treat others. This is the outward fruits. And then faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. These are the upward roots. These are seeds. These are the ways in which we treat ourselves. If we can, instead of having, let's say, have $100,000 in the bank account, instead of that being the goal, we instead say, you know what? I'm going to instead, again, so perfect. We can instead say, I'm going to put the goal of faithfulness and self-control as well as joy as being the goal. And then in the process, I am going to be in action to generate $100,000 for this year. However, the goal is not the $100,000. The goal is the love, the self-control, the patience. What if I focus in on those 3 things as being the goals and not necessarily the external thing? This is where you take life from a finite game and you turn it into an infinite game. And this is huge if you really understand it, because when you recognize that there is no place in which you'll never get to a place where where you're too faithful or too patient or too loving or too caring. There can never be a place where you're going to be the best husband, the best son, the best father, the best friend. These are infinite games. And Simon Sinek talks a bunch about this, because when we really shift our perspective of living life from infinite games or for finite games, we start to care about new things, different things, long-lasting things. Finite games are very clear. They typically have rules, a known set of players, and a winner, very clearly known. Example, soccer. The goal is very clear. You get the ball in the net. Who plays is on the field, and the rules are what they are. However, there are no rules for infinite games like being a good father. There are principles that we can follow. And as we have those principles continuously expand. They get more and more and more. There's layers to the picture. There's layers to growth, just like there's levels to growth. In any type of leadership, you're going to experience that the more that you go through an experience, the deeper the layers of growth that you go through, which gives you more equipping. It gives you an opportunity to be able to support the people around you. This is why experiences are so crucial, which again is also really important to remember, that while the goals are no longer an external outcome, the goals are the internal fruits, the seeds that we're planting. However, there is a process for us to get closer towards those goals. And that's when the objectives come into the picture, which is step number 2, to really set for yourself these goals that are aligned with those. So again, with my example, as I align my goals with these principles, in the example from before, the goal is faithfulness, joy, patience. The way in which I'm aligning that goal is through the $100,000. Now, how I generate the $100,000, we can break that down, but that's for a different conversation, because this is how we start to now put into place an opportunity for us to have these goals that are internal drivers, internal identity factors. And instead of having those things just be things that we become by happenstance, those things are the intentions that we're moving towards. And the things that we do in the process to get there are just the process to get there. This is why it's key that as you recognize yourself moving closer and closer or farther away from that goal, the seeds, you are going to feel a new level of fulfillment, because you recognize that it's not about the money in the bank account that brings you fulfillment. It's about the person you're growing and developing into. So root these goals, root these out. So let me just make it distinct, because I don't want to confuse you. The alignment is the process, $100,000, whatever that means. The goal are the seeds. If you can start to plant the seeds and have these goals be the seeds, and in the process align them with actions, is going to create a whole new experience for you. The cool thing about this is as you take a look at all of those, a great way to start to align your goals with you is through serving others. What is a way in which you can serve maybe your coworkers better, maybe your clients better, maybe the people around you? Maybe you can go and volunteer. There are ways in which you can align your actions that will support you in getting closer towards those goals, and regardless of their outcome, feel that level of fulfillment. Next, super important, we must go back on a monthly basis, review and adjust. We must be okay with maybe looking at the past month and not seeing that we are moving closer toward our goals. It's okay. Typically, before there's ever any sort of transformation, there's going to be a disruption for the intention. Disruption always follows intention. You intend to do something, and then as you intend to do something, something will come your way to test you on that. A great example of this, as we are beginning the year, people say they want to go to the gym and take care of their bodies. Well, they start going to the gym. The first couple of weeks they go to the gym, guess what? The body doesn't feel good. They're sore, and that all habitual ways of thinking and believing and acting show up, habits. There's things that come in the way that we could easily just justify for not wanting to go to the gym. So the intention of wanting to go to the gym is met by the challenge to it. So be okay that as you are reviewing the month, if you come across an area where you're not necessarily happy with, trust the process. Continue to move forward. Adjust what needs to be adjusted. If you are not tracking your progress, you could very easily be moving away towards your goal, not really knowing how. And as we have taken a look, these goals that we've set, these seeds that we're talking about, the fruits of the spirit, like we're really putting in as the goals, those things can't really be measured. But what can be measured is the process to get there. And in the process to get there, with intentionality, we can start to recognize that maybe I'm not necessarily being patient as I'm in the process of building this $100,000 for the year. And then you want to chunk it down. So in that example, you want to take a look. You're not going to make 100,000 in a year, in a month. No. What do you need to do every single month in order to reach that goal of $100,000? This is just an example. You can set your alignment action to be whatever you choose to be. Maybe you want to be more gentle and self-controlled with yourself. And that's the goal. And then the alignment to get there is maybe increase body weight by 15 pounds and increase bone density by 10%. Or actually muscle density by 10%. Right? You start to recognize that the alignment actions are now leading towards the end goals, the character development, the identity factors we're working towards, the fruits of the spirit. And as we adjust on a monthly basis, we recognize that I think I was doing the right things. I think I was moving closer towards becoming this person, but now I'm looking back on it and I'm not really seeing those outcomes. If that's the case, that is okay. Again, you are becoming a whole new person. You are literally rewiring who you've known yourself to be and rewiring into a whole new identity. That is the most challenging thing that any of us as humans will do because we have not been taught this. It is okay for us to say that if it's sunny outside and I'm in Florida and it's the summer, it's going to be hot. Like, there's no question to that. However, you take somebody that only knew that and they lived in the bubble of Florida in the summer with that, and you plop them up in North Jersey in the middle of winter where it gets sunny. But that person has no idea of what it's like outside. They'll walk outside and be completely confronted by it. So all of this to say that who you are becoming will require time, and who you are today is not who you're going to be tomorrow. You're literally going to be a whole new person in a whole new location, in a whole new position by the time that you get done with your alignment actions leading towards the seeds of the spirit, the fruits of the spirit. It may not necessarily be a physical different location, but who you are is going to be different. And in that, the location of where you're at is going to be totally different. As you take in this practice of setting up your goals in order for them to be much more permanent and long lasting, it's going to be really important that you review continuously. Be okay not necessarily having the outcome. Be okay, quote unquote, failing. The challenge will only help you propel yourself forward down the road. And ultimately, God is much more interested in developing your character and your identity than giving you things. He wants to give you things. But in the process, he doesn't want you to lose you because he is much more interested and committed to the people that you are going to help in the process. If you have kids, the character, the identity that you'll be passing on to them. That's what he's much more interested in. So understand that this is going to be a lifelong process. This isn't going to happen in 1 year. People underestimate what they can do in a decade and overestimate what they can do in 1 year. So your goals that you have right now, great. Set a high standard for yourself. The alignment actions, great. Set a high standard for yourself. Recognize, however, that the high standard may not be met at the end of the month and at the end of the year. I'm not saying to expect that because the expectations that we carry bring about the reality we live. What I am saying is that if you right now are being real with yourself and you're setting lofty goals that are getting you uncomfortable, it is going to require time, effort, and energy. And that's why you're here ultimately, to become a better version of yourself, to step into a whole new level of identity, to live in the purposes of God, so you can live a permanent living of fulfillment, satisfaction, and joy, not tied into the external results. All those conditions and circumstances will be what they'll be. What you are and who you become will withstand the test of time. So remember, RAR, reflect the purpose that God has for you. How? Through the fruits of the Spirit. A, align the actions to those goals. Make sure that there's actions connected. Otherwise, this is going to be just pie in the sky, pigs flying in the sky. Won't work. There needs to be action. If we're going to park the car, we need to have it be in motion. So align your actions. And 3, review and adjust monthly, continuously. I would even say daily. Take a look at for yourself. Are you moving closer towards the goal of being gentle and kind? And are you taking the actions to get there? Or are you thinking and hoping in a way in a delusional state, thinking that you can just chill back and have things come about? Again, the mind without a proper end outcome is going to revert to a chaotic state. We got to be the ones to give it a direction and guidance so that we can keep moving closer and closer towards who you've been created to be, which, my friend, you are a child of God. You were created by the Creator to create. There are seeds within you. There's ideas. There's creative expressions, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, that only you have. It is our responsibility to explore them. And that is challenging, but that's why we're here. That's why this life is so exciting. And that's why, for me, my passion and my commitment is to do this. Because these videos are just an opportunity for me to reach more people. I can't reach the amount of people that I could reach on my coaching sessions. But through this, it's giving me an opportunity to be able to step further and further into the purposes God has placed for me. So if you found this information and this practical idea of setting goals from a new perspective valuable, share with others. Let them know that there's different ways in which they can set goals for themselves that go beyond situations, conditions, or circumstances. Much more important are goals that are going to create the long term, the sustainability, what stands the test of time, which is what? Your character and your identity. All right, y'all. God bless. See you soon.